Welcome. We've been having a series of conversations about change in the workplace, mostly about the coronavirus and how that's affected our workplaces. But today I'm really excited and looking forward to this conversation with Mark Johnson about diversity and inclusion and how people of all races can better navigate those issues in the workplace. Mark, it's great to have you here today. I'm really looking forward to this.
Thank you for inviting me, Bob. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Mark is the Chief Legal Counsel, Governance Officer, and Corporate Secretary at Kimball International. Prior to that, he was the Deputy General Counsel at Newell Rubbermaid, and before that, he was an attorney with McGuire Woods. Mark's area of specialization is corporate law, merger and acquisitions, and corporate governance. So, Mark, thanks. I know you're busy. I appreciate the time and the conversation, and I'm excited about the opportunity to engage in the conversation to provide a framework for creating a safe and healthy working environment. I don't think there's any preconceived notions or agenda other than creating an awareness, sharing a path forward, and that things need to change. I feel like I'm flying a little blind, and I think your thoughts and interactions will certainly be key. My thought is to kind of start by just stating the obvious, and recognize the challenge. There's a problem, and I think we need to address that and change the paradigm. So maybe if we could kind of share each other's perceptions, both acknowledging, that things are not equitable and, doing nothing really is not an option.
Bob, I could not agree more. We are in what are very difficult and I'd say troubling times right now. And I think the first step of solving any issue is making sure that you identify and recognize and acknowledge the issues. And in that respect, I really do feel like we as a country are going through a process right now of realization. The truth is, I feel that for a long time, we've been operating really in different environments. People in the country have been seeing the world through different lenses. And I'd go so far as to say, I don't know that the events of the last several months in particular, where we've been seeing so many incidents that have been recorded, particularly with law enforcement, police officers, and Black men in particular, who have been involved in killings and beatings and so forth. I don't know that it has been that this is new. I think we're seeing a different lens, and for the first time in a long time, I think people are acknowledging that, they're seeing it, and what we need to do now is figure out how we deal with it. These are tough issues. They're difficult conversations to have. They're emotionally charged conversations that we're having. You're getting into a space where you're talking about not only behaviors, but people's beliefs. And those make people very uncomfortable. But what I find encouraging is that we all are taking the steps to have what I think are difficult conversations. These are difficult times. We've seen some very, I think, consequential incidents, but I do think that we're seeing a resolve. I think that we're seeing people display the type of courage that I think is required for us all to move forward in a way that we can begin to heal and to really solve, I think, what are some really long-standing issues, but we need to find a way to come together, move forward, so that we can all end up in a much better place than we are right now. I know that's a lot for me to say, Bob. It's a lot packed into that statement. But again, even this week, we've seen some even recent incidents. These are highly charged and very emotional events, and it's why I so very much appreciate having this conversation with you today.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, Mark. And I think one of the things I find frustrating is, how long, we've been going on and having these conversations. So on one hand, I'm excited that I think the level of awareness has increased. I think people are recognizing that there's a problem, and I think people are also recognizing that we need to do something about it. I do think there's a large number of people who still just don't understand. I feel like, we live in our own communities. We're kind of insulated from a lot of the issues that each other kind of experiences and shares. And I think that's the hurdle that we have to get over. And, in the past, we've tried to integrate. That hasn't been successful. I think now I look at it and say, if our society is to continue and, we're going to innovate and create new things and maintain a leading edge, that diversity is necessary. I mean, if I'm dealing with people that think like I do every day, I'm not going to be able to generate any new ideas. So I feel like, I have to be exposed to, different cultures, different experiences. I have to understand people's backgrounds. I have to learn about different, ways that people think, and then I can apply that to, to my profession and to, creativity and to develop new ideas. And I think our society as a whole needs that in order to maintain that, innovation edge. But, let me ask you, I mean, I think the workplace is one of those things where everything kind of comes crashing together, and how do we create, an environment where, we can have these conversations and feel safe and not like we're threatening somebody or that we're afraid of something, but that we can engage and really get to that deeper understanding of where, each other is thinking.
It is such an important time for us right now. There are so many changes that are happening culturally. Uh, you're absolutely right that the workspace, the workplace is evolving. The last 6 months or so, Bob, we've all been working differently. I really think that this change, this evolution was taking place before the COVID crisis, but it has accelerated things so quickly. The workplace is not just a cocoon, right? It's not, it is now a place that is not only entering into a building. We are now bringing our personal space into the workplace, and the workplace is now invading our personal space. And so, what we need to do is figure out what that means for us, because we don't have these well defined boundaries anymore. And that's an uncomfortable place to be. We're establishing new norms on the fly. We're now operating in a place where you might be on a Zoom conversation on a work call at home, and yet you see someone's, how many times do you see someone's dog enter the picture, or you hear someone's children in the background?
It's usually my lawn guys that show up.
That's absolutely right, right. But we've become accustomed to that so quickly. It's no longer a big deal. You don't feel embarrassed about it anymore. You don't feel like it's a mistake or something that's not supposed to happen. We've all just grown accustomed to that happening. But what it means is that our well-defined boundaries have eroded. Our worlds are coming together, and we're bringing people into our homes that have never entered those spaces before. And so what it means is that we also have to evolve and change our thinking. The truth is, we don't have these well-defined boundaries anymore. So what do we have to do? We have to figure out how do we grow and learn what it means to peek behind someone's curtain. we have to be more accepting of people being a part of what were very personal spaces before. Um,
Let me stop you there for a second, because I totally agree with you. But it's almost as if fear seems to drive a lot of reaction. And I'm just curious, what you think causes that, and why is that? Why is it that we're, afraid of each other?
Bob, I think a lot of it is we fear what we don't know or don't understand. Um, it takes a certain amount of trust to have the types of conversations that you were alluding to before, that to have these types of conversations in the workplace with your colleagues, where you're talking about diversity, where you are acknowledging that you might not have or share the same experiences with someone that that person has. Well, there are two ways to deal with that. You can avoid it altogether, or you can take steps to try to learn. And in taking steps to try to learn and in entering into new spaces, is fraught with peril. You're exposing yourself. You may say the wrong thing. You may unintentionally offend someone. These are all things that in the workplace have been hot button areas that the easiest thing to do has been to avoid, right? You put on your work persona. You know what areas you can stay in to avoid offending someone. Well, what we're now saying is because these worlds are merging, because these boundaries have eroded, for us to really move forward, we have to trust each other, and we have to offer people the opportunity to enter into these new spaces that they've never entered into before. We really have to give people permission to make some mistakes, right? To say some things that they might not have said before, and give them an opportunity to learn from those issues. We want people to celebrate differences. We want, as you mentioned before, to learn these different areas. And if it means that we're venturing into new territory, we have to trust that people have good intentions, that these are genuine, sincere efforts that are being made. And if there are mistakes that are made, if people say things that might be a little bit culturally insensitive, as long as there is a genuine, sincere effort to learn, I think we have to teach, right? We have to take that opportunity to teach, and it's a shared responsibility. I think we have to say, if we want to sell to people, if we want to manufacture products for people in spaces and areas that we've never entered into before, if you're a good R&D person, if you're a good marketing person, what do? You take it upon yourself to go and learn that area. That's part of the responsibility. The other part of the responsibility is the person on the other end who is also a colleague or sharing in that space. What I would say is, let's also do what we can to teach. This is a complicated set of new norms that we're establishing. But I think working together, acknowledging that these are difficult projects and activities that people are getting into, it's quite intense. But I think that's what's going to be required for us to move forward.
So I'm just thinking, are there any, things that people can do to gain a better understanding of each other, in I'll say a safe way, without offending each other? Or is it something where you can apply humor to try to diffuse a situation? I'm just thinking of, are there some helpful suggestions, for people that work together, to begin those conversations in a safe way?
I think the short answer is yes. I have quite an extensive international background. In my prior job, I was responsible for a global business. And one of the things that I did is before I went to a new country or a new area, I did my research. And I think that's the same type of approach that we should take when we're looking at new venturing into new cultural areas as well. Um, there is so much information available these days. I think there are just very basic things that we can do to understand different cultures. It doesn't have to be that you walk up to someone without any understanding and just barge right into a conversation about something. I don't think that that's the right approach. I do think having a baseline understanding of who someone is, what a colleague, for instance, knowing where they're from, what their just basic resume information that will tell you a lot about a person, and then I think you take steps from there. But there are minimum kind of basic things I think that we can expect of people to know and to understand, and that gets you so far down the road. And beyond that, you establish a relationship, and from there, I think things develop. But again, I think there is a responsibility to learn basic information about the people you work with, the people you interact with. I don't think that that's an unreasonable set of expectations.
No, and I would think that there's an organizational responsibility as well, to begin to at least lead that effort. Most of our audience are involved in the design and construction of the physical work environment. And I'm just wondering, are there any things that we should be thinking about as we're putting these spaces together, to enhance that conversation or to enhance that process?
It is exactly the types of conversations that we're having at Kimball International as well. The world is changing. We are utilizing space differently. The How we interact with people is very different now. Even within different cultures, we kind of have different views of personal space. So those are the types of things that I think in our industry we have to really mind, we have to research, we have to be aware of. And there is a little bit of a push-pull here. Are we going to try to drive behaviors, or are we going to try to react to what we see are changing behaviors in the workplace right now? I don't think there is a good answer for it. It really is trying to find that sweet spot. But I think you're spot on in saying that there is a really a cultural element to this that we have to find a way of weaving into what we do. The other thing is, and I really want to emphasize this, it's exciting. There is a wonderful component to being able to explore differences and cultures. This is what makes our industry so special, is that we have there is this blank canvas to some degree, in that we can go and pull what we think are the best, most exciting, useful portions of different cultures and how people interact with us, how how they interact with each other, how they sit, where they're situated. We can pull all that together and make what we think are great products, great environments, great buildings. That's an exciting space to be in, and we should not lose sight of that, right? With everything that's going on, this is an enormous opportunity for our industry, and we have the ability to go out to learn what people are doing, to take the best of different cultures and infuse that into our products and into what we provide as a service.
Mark, this has been great. It's an issue that I think that we all need to deal with. I don't think we can have a successful society if only a portion of that society is doing well. I think that, we have to make sure everything is equitable, across the board. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close this out?
I really am hopeful about where we're going. I really do have a sense that there is a desire for us to acknowledge that there are many areas where we can improve. I think that this is a critical time where you are seeing events come together, but you're seeing people acknowledge that there is opportunity for us to learn from what is taking place, for us to work together. And I really am hopeful that we will be able to come together and end up in a very much a better place.
Thank you very much, for having this conversation and, taking the risk to share some of your ideas. I'm hopeful as well, and people can change and embrace each other and celebrate all the great things that we all bring to the table.
Thanks again. I really do appreciate this, and I think it's an important time.
I feel like we need to have more of these kinds of conversations.
Thanks, Bob. My pleasure. Talk soon.
Okay. See ya.